5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, my Richies, and welcome back to another episode of the Make Life Rich Movement podcast. My name is Sarah, I'm your host, and in today's episode of the Sunday Strategy Sessions, where we focus on one topic for you to utilize to grow 1% ahead, whether that be in your personal life or business. And today we are going to break down the beautiful adage of the lighthouse and the tugboat. And this has been a pretty big lesson for me for the last few years, just in terms of knowing when to help others and knowing when to encourage others. And this adage is one that just kind of cleared it up for me. This is the phenomenon of the tugboat and the lighthouse is something that my husband and I have spoken about at length, but didn't use those terms. And since hearing it, being able to piece together what we had always discussed with this, it's just like, this is the perfect tale to be able to help you remove yourself from what could be an emotional decision, an emotional situation, and think about the ways in which that you can both buttress yourself from having to deal with someone who is in essence drowning or having a very difficult time, and, be in a place where you're able to be actually helpful rather than helping. So this is a pretty powerful metaphor. It's kind of very encouraging for those of you that may find yourselves in a place to where, you're growing, you're evolving, your spiritual path is widening, and you're starting to feel more and more confident and at ease within your body and your soul. And like you're getting an inkling of what your purpose is. And it's starting to feel really good. And in it feeling really good, you may feel compelled to try to take those around you with you at the same time. And you may be incurring some instances of, them kind of dragging their feet and not really willing to go along this journey with you. And it's a really difficult place to find yourself. I've been there many times in my life, and none of those times were comfortable. They were sad. It was difficult as a life lesson for me to have to learn over and over again that, no matter how hard or how much you want to help someone, ultimately it is up to them. Kind of like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink adage. Clients, friends, like anyone you can think of, you can kind of apply this metaphor to how you position yourself to interact with them in these kinds of scenarios. So the lighthouse and the tugboat is a beautiful way to kind of show how you can be two different people within one situation, and it's up to you to choose which side. And for me, I'll give a practical application of this. For me, there was always a moment of seeing someone struggle and wanting to help them, which was almost robbing them of the lesson, right? Like they needed to rise to the occasion to help themselves. Someone helping them is probably why they got into the position they were in the place that you found them, to where you were like, man, it's really dire, I have to help you. There's always, exceptions to the rule when it comes to health or, mental health, or, maybe like someone close to you has just really gotten themselves into a dangerous place. Then of course it's absolutely responsible and expected for you to step in and to help someone, or at least get them the professional help that they need. But we're talking more about the people that have a very negative mindset. There's always a dark cloud following them around. It's always the, oh, must be nice, which Cam Hanes, one of my favorites, has just made so well known. And so often he is receiving this message, which I just find wild. But it's the individuals that find things difficult, and instead of gritting down and getting through the difficult part to get to the other side, they make an excuse, they poo-poo it, or, they're always trying to figure out the quickest way to do it, when it's like you just have to start and just let experience and time accumulate for you to actually achieve what you're going after, which is, in reality, there are people that want the end goal. And then there are people that know that every step getting to that end goal is the journey, and that was truly what you were going after, and that was truly what you were looking for within this circumstance. So in moments where I would find myself wanting to help someone, I was the tugboat. I was someone who was providing guidance, but kind of doing the work for them. I'm tugging them along, I'm pulling them, and maybe they've got zero engine power. They're at a zero and they need like 100% for me to take them to the next step. And although that may feel like it's the right thing to do, in doing the work for them, you are literally robbing them of the opportunity to take themselves out of that space and feel empowered by that action and that iteration and that reframing and just the grit that it took to get from one side to the other. Now, in that act of pulling, you are going to exhaust yourself. You're a much smaller portion of this big problem that they have, whether that be their drive, their mental attitude. Do they have fortitude? Do they believe in themselves? Do they believe in their goals? Do they take action for their goals? If these things aren't happening, you're doing 100% of the work and you're exhausting yourself. You are literally robbing your cup to pour into their cup that has a hole at the bottom. It's useless. All along, you are also creating a very conditional relationship and one that is very dependent upon you providing, one, for them to feel like they're getting something from you. They need that because they don't want to do it themselves. And two, you start to equate your worth and your value with them down to what you do for them. It's a recipe for disaster, but it doesn't have to stay this way. So how do we get from the tugboat to the lighthouse? Now, the lighthouse is also providing guidance, but it's doing so in a hands-off motion. It's illuminating from a distance. It's providing direction in the dark, where people are really just clamoring for a straw to figure out which way they should go next. Empowering others through guidance and support is going to allow people to navigate on their own path without you pulling them along. And when you're providing your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience as a resource, or even just your love and support, if this is a personal relationship, just being an ear to listen to what they're going through and not fix it, but just see them. Can you just see them? That's all a lighthouse can do, right? If we're assuming that it can see, which we'll do for this, I'm down for that. It's not only shining its light out, but it's seeing you and it's saying, come over here, come on, come on, come on. But it's doing so on its own accord in a way that allows the lighthouse to just stand there, keep being bright. There's another cool part to the tugboat approach that I think you're going to recognize you having done at some point in your life almost immediately. And that is that in you directly solving problems for others, there are drawbacks. And outside of the dependency factor, you're absolutely inhibiting their growth. This is also kind of a pathway of enablism that can create an addictive personality to really need and rely on you for this certain thing that you've been providing emotionally. I've had a few friends in my life actually, and this was a testament to me being reminded over and over again by the universe that I needed to detach myself and really focus on what my self-worth was with my friends and kind of discover whether or not they would love me without what I was giving them, which was a lot of myself. I had two very codependent relationships in particular, and both of them were very deterred by my either attention in a person that I was dating at the time, and it was like taking attention away from them, and they were very just upset about it. And I knew for them it was triggering because I was one of the most consistent people in their life, and they had abandonment issues from their mother and their father and had a really rough upbringing of having to be strong for themselves and their siblings. And I understood where it was coming from, but it led to us like her severing ties and us not speaking for a few years because she was so angry over my wanting to prioritize a relationship. So that was odd, but I was tugboating and I was tugboating hard. Another instance, I had a friend that was just very deeply feeling emotionally let down in my lack of support for her when I was actively grieving for my father. It was about 6 months in, and this person just kind of, in no uncertain terms, told me that I can't own grief and that, the ending of their relationship was something that, she has every right to be devastated over, which I didn't disagree from, but it was troubling that she wanted me to cut all of my emotions off in that moment so I could fully serve her in giving her the exact emotional support she needed so she could stop having a panic attack. And in that moment, I was still dead inside and like literally unfrozen on pause because of grieving so deeply that I had to immediately disengage contact with that person and have not spoken to them since, because that was such a very distinct occasion of that ship starting to sink. And because we were tethered, me, the tugboat, started to go down with her. And I said, And I sliced that cord and off they went. And I wish them a good sails, and I'll always will. But that was an instance of me having to sever the tie. That was when I truly understood that I could not allow the needs of others to supersede my own in a way that puts me into a deficit or causes me any kind of harm or ill will. But I didn't have this metaphor then, and I really wish I would have had it, because it would have made things a lot cleaner for me. I felt very guilty about these two relationships kind of ending, and the guilt came from me thinking that my worth in life was what I gave people. And when I started to take it away, it made me feel like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry that I did that to you. But in reality, I was just reclaiming my boundaries, and ones that were healthy and necessary for the relationship, whether it was going to continue or still be severed in that moment. The tugboat should only be used when necessary, and that is purely for emergencies, when people are incapacitated and unable to make a decision for themselves. And these moments are rare. And these moments may occur in the early days of grief or the early days of motherhood. Like, there's just so many times and moments in fatherhood as well where you're calling for a lifeboat. But outside of those extreme moments, you would never, ever see a tugboat taking on a catastrophe. A catastrophe requires the Coast Guard, guys. And you are not the Coast Guard. You don't even want to be in the water with any of this when it's going on. You want to be on the shore, minding your business, in your tranquility of just shining your example and your light out there for way more than one person to see. That's a benefit of the lighthouse. A tugboat can only pull one boat at a time. A lighthouse can shine to thousands. It can reach miles into the darkness in a way that allows others to navigate their own path and course correct along the journey until they arrive at the shore. And this process gets repeated over and over and over again. This is life. This is elevating 1% a day and just keep going and going and going. So in you being a lighthouse, you are doing the kindest thing possible. Although in the very beginning of setting these boundaries with others, it's not going to feel that way. And that's okay. Because once it starts to feel okay, you're going to be, one, really proud of yourself. And two, you're going to be really proud of the person that stepped up for themselves and did what they needed to do without your help. Then they feel verified in knowing that they can do it too. And now maybe you just become a person that they get to discuss these growth points with, rather than be a person that they're bitching and moaning to, or crying for help, or just complaining when it isn't warranted, being ungrateful. It is really cool to be a lighthouse and to help to create a ripple effect in that way. Maybe you're also sharing your growth points with the other person and letting them know, like, hey, I'm a struggle bus over here. Like, this is, it may, like, this hurts me. I feel the same way that you do when you're doing this, but I do it because I have to do it and I have no choice but to do it. So that's the only difference between you and I. I've accepted that I have no choice but to do it. So let's do it together. Like, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. We'll compare notes. Like, you get to really have a ripple effect of empowerment that is just really drawing in a community of growers and doers that will support you and your mission, whether that's just to continue to be a lighthouse for others and then those around you in turn become lighthouses. Like, think of the effect of how bright this could be, how like magnifying and illuminating it could be for you to just stand in your truth, stand in your examples, stand in your experience, and just those that are drawn to you and that are meant to be on the same path as you will be drawn to you. And then when they themselves turn into lighthouses as well, you're just continuing to attract more people that are on the same wavelength. Like, that is a dream. So getting this iteration down of just understanding that you're not going to be able to pull people to this place. You can't yank a dog by its leash that doesn't want to go in the direction, right? It's like, no, mom, we're going to the right today. I don't want to go to the left. Like, it has to be a balancing act. You need to know when to intervene and when not to. You need to know when to guide and you need to know when to stop. Do they need to be stopped? Are they going to harm themselves or others? Are they about to create an absolute irreversible catastrophe in their business or their life? Sure, then maybe you could step in with a bit of like a suggestion or some guidance. But even still, it is their journey and their journey alone. In seeing my father pass away and take his last breath, I can tell you something that immediately seared into my knowing and my understanding. I came into this world taking my first breath all by myself. I'm going to leave this world taking my last breath all by myself. No one but me can pull the oxygen in and push it out for that final time. And for me to trick myself into thinking and diluting my reality into believing that that is so is like so dangerous. So when you're looking to be a lighthouse for others, there are really practical ways that you can be assisting people on the journey that are still, flailing out at sea, and they know you're not going to be the tugboat, right? But they're still coming to you with their problems. When they're still working on that PMA, that positive mindset, they're looking for a change, but it hasn't really settled in yet. Active listening and asking them like some thought-provoking questions about why they feel the way they're feeling, what's currently happening to them that's taken them down this path. Do they think that there might be something they could do to ease the tension a little bit while they create a strategy or some type of blueprint for how to get out of this problem? Taking them to a space of actively thinking may remove them from the overwhelming emotions that they're feeling right now that has led them to you, the person that makes them feel comfortable, aka they're like their bestie, their blankie, their sister, their mother, their whomever. But you can't be the smother you can be the smother blanket for their anxiety. They need to quell the fear themselves. So taking them out of the emotions by asking them questions and then listening and following up with more thought-provoking questions is a really great way to assist them in deregulating themselves, because you're taking them out of heart and you're putting them into mind, which is a problem-solving state, which is better than being frozen in a potential panic attack state. I think there's also something that can be said for sharing your experiences without giving them without commanding them or giving them you got to do this, you got to do that, you should do this, you should have done that. No, don't give them any kind of direct or dictating actions. Just share what your experience was when you felt the way that they felt, maybe what you did to not feel that way. Keep it very personal, because at the end of the day, what they want you to solve is the anxiety attached to the physical problem they're experiencing. And what they need to do is figure out how to quell the anxiety and then make an attack plan to solve their problem. You can help them feel better by seeing them and telling them of a time where you felt the way that they're feeling. You felt helpless. You felt out of control. You felt like you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. You didn't know what was next. You're feeling helpless, worthless, like a waste, guilty of just anything, everything. I can go on, and I bet at some point in time you felt that way and you would have given anything for someone to make you feel better. But at some point we have to grow up, and we can't rely on a mother's hug or something to soothe us and get us back on the right path to keep achieving. Reparenting is a big part of going from being the tugboat to being the lighthouse. And in being the lighthouse again and setting these standards, you're giving yourself the very growth-provoking balancing act of trying to figure out when to intervene and when not to. And that is a beautiful lesson for you as well. You're not only stretching your empathy by understanding this person's having a really hard time, but you're also reinforcing that empathy by letting them help themselves. And in those times and moments where it's like, holy fuck, all hands on deck, this person needs help, you're going to be one of the first to be right there, guiding them while helping. How can you become a better lighthouse for yourself and for others. I became a lighthouse for myself because currently I was the tugboat pulling the ship that was sinking and then like loading up the like airboat on the tugboat to dump off in case I needed to jump off the tugboat quick. Like there was no solutions. It was just escape plans and it was stupid. I had to work on my learning. I had to work on my self-improvement. I've read over 100 books over the last year revolving on psychology, self-improvement, psychotherapy, like neurodivergency, just like anything I can get my hands on, spirituality, just expanding my understanding of consciousness, creating routines for myself that are supporting all of this mindset work and this conscious work that I'm doing. And it has led to self-improvement, and it has led to just feeling a concrete switch in my brain. Something has turned to where I like this, and I like it so much that I choose for this to be my programming. So I've kept it around. And that's rare for me because I'm absolutely one of those people that flip-flops on trying new things until they find something they're obsessed with. And then it sticks around for a few years, if it's that lucky. And then I move on to something else. I'm constantly iterating, but notice that it is a little bit erratic and has tended to rely on my emotions and what I wanted for myself. So again, this is something that I'm working on and utilizing the lighthouse and the tugboat as a way to keep myself in check with myself. I can't keep saving myself in this manner. I have to sit down and really get to getting and get the business done and like focus on, being better at laundry or making tastier dishes or, making strawberry ice cream that actually tastes like strawberry ice cream, which is a fun little problem I had last night. But becoming a better lighthouse means also like taking my emotional intelligence and taking my expanding empathy and figuring out a way to be supportive to myself first and foremost, and have the support and love and confidence and peacefulness that radiates from me because of the healing that I've done on myself, allow that to shine out for others and let them feel like, okay, this is something I can do too. It's like the example of, the record for running the fastest mile was what it was until someone broke it because no one thought it could be broken. Someone needed to see that it could be done. That's humans for you. We need a little bit of concrete proof. Maybe that's from all the foods we've eaten that have killed us in the past. We had to check out what the other person was doing before we took our first bite. Or, not running off the edge of a cliff that's covered in trees. Like there's just so many ways in which we are very protective of how we change. And it takes time. We need to see others in their full light and their authenticity and watch them deliver the same person over and over again. Not to say that you're a perfectionist or a robot as a lighthouse. You're absolutely neither of those things. But the consistency is in the consistency. And what you bring to the table every day doesn't matter much. It's just that you keep showing up to the table and you keep sharing. And you keep being open to conversations about how you can get better. And you're open to sharing how you think, I think others can do better. And sometimes that hurts to hear and sometimes that hurts to say, but it is how you help people to become their own lighthouse. I think practicing patience and trusting that whatever is meant to happen for the other person is what's happening now, and whatever they evolve into in the future is who they were meant to evolve into, and it has nothing to do with you. You are literally a type A person that needs to sit down and chill if you think that you can control anyone's future or fate, because it's not up to you. It's never been in your hands. It's just the thought that provoked you to think that you could help, aka control others into becoming better, changing this thing you think they could do better. All of that is tenured around your judgment. And that's not a great place to approach others from. And I say this from a place of me actively still every single day trying to be less judgmental. Namely over my 74-year-old mother who comes from four generations older than me and is just from a totally different world. And we are totally different people. And we've had totally different things happen in our lives. And we've had totally different ways about going about them. And that is our right. It's our right. And it's okay. And it's what's meant to be. And it's a little foo-foo, but it's the acceptance of that I think allows you to fully become the lighthouse. I'm working on it every day, but being aware of it for me has been just like the single key and me unlocking my ability to truly try my hardest to just let people be and just love them for who they are in that moment and know that they are doing their best. Because I have to do that for myself. So who am I and how ego-ridden is that for me to expect others to rise to my standards when I'm still fledging on them? Like, girl, it's rude. It's rude. And it's being human. And it's the instance and constant daily circumstance of just trying to evolve in a kind manner that allows you to help be the tide that rises all boats instead of being the hurricane that rips them out of the harbor. Like, we are capable of doing this. And I do believe in my heart of hearts that it is our purpose here, especially in this timeline. I want you to really be kind to yourself in those moments that you slick back into being the tugboat. Because all it means is that your heart is in the right place. It's just that the logic of you delivering that love is a little bit behind. There are a couple exits back on the parkway and they're about to catch up to you quick here. And just know that tough love is also love, and they will grow to thank you, and they will grow to recognize what's happening. And they will grow to feel comfortable in knowing that you are still guiding them. You're just doing it from a much safer distance for both of you, which is such a beautiful exchange to not only be a part of, but to give to someone else. And it's all I hope to do. And it is honestly how I'm working through every single relationship and a person that I speak with all day long, every day. It's a very humbling and rewarding experience. And I catch myself fucking 25 times a day, doing things in a manner that are very tugboatish, whether it's to others or to myself. And I'm thankful that I have that knowledge because it's given me power to start to reiterate and just dock that tugboat onto the sand and run my ass up into that lighthouse, all those 100 steps to get up to the top and just shine my light, which is my love and my experience and how I share it with others. I hope this was helpful for you. This has been a really big part of my self-growth over the last few years, the way in which I interact with others and myself in a manner that is healthy and congruent with continuous growth that is painless and just really meant for us, very authentic. I thank you for listening. I hope, again, that this was helpful. I just am overjoyed that you tune in episode after episode 3 times a week, week after week, from all the different countries that you're tuning in from. It means so much to me. I cry probably once a day thinking about the amount of you that are tuning in and listening. It absolutely means the world to me. Thank you for allowing me to be your lighthouse. And I hope that you are encouraged to be a brighter lighthouse for others in your life and for yourself. And as always, make life rich.